shall we get started?
Sure.
Yep, sure.
Yep, sure.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first roundtable episode. I wanted to just do a quick introduction to the Society of the Custodians of the West and at least offer a glimpse to our short term plans for this channel. So, the main goal of the Society is to preserve and promote Western culture and history. We have no desire of ever becoming a so called political movement like other groups out there. More on that later. Above all else, we wish to be a place where sensible, moderate grown ups can come together, learn from one another, have civilized discussions, and take action against the perils that prey on us all. We know that there are a lot of folks out there that feel isolated, having to pick between either the insanity of the far left or the uselessness of the far right. And we hope that projects like ours will let them know that they are not alone. In fact, that is how most of us right here have come together, having had no prior connection whatsoever. We are proof that moderates from different nationalities and backgrounds can find each other and unite under a common banner, so to speak. That being said, and also given the fact that most of us have never done anything of the sort, some awkwardness is to be expected at first. And we do not want to hide from it and try to overproduce these episodes. We hope to create a cozy vibe for ourselves, future participants, and to everyone watching. Like we're a bunch of strangers having a drink at the pub and hopefully forming lifelong friendships as time goes on. We will also have a rotating roast. We will also have a rotating roster of speakers according to everyone's availability and as present and future members of the society wish to participate. And if all goes well, very soon we'll also be joined by some very special guests.
Right. So, with all that out of the way, uh, our first topic um, that I wanted to discuss is basically I wanted to kick off things by taking a stand on something we all have experienced, and I believe a lot of our present and future listeners have as well. We have all joined Telegram or WhatsApp groups, Discord servers, and so on, hoping to connect with like-minded folks that want to take action, only to realize those forums are overrun by anti-Semites and, in some cases, literal Nazis. Um, and those people and their useless speech tends to scare off any moderates. And without moderates, nothing will ever get done. There's a reason why the far right has never accomplished anything. So I want everyone to know right out the gate that that won't be tolerated here ever. And yeah, like hopefully anyone finding this channel will know that we aim to be different, we aim to do better, and yeah, that is the basically it as far as you know, the introduction.
Well said. I think you put that really well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, like just to give a bit more context on that, um, a couple of us here, we did join a few weeks ago. We joined a Discord server that looked very promising. It was on the back. I'm not going to use any names, but it was on the back of uh, I wouldn't say a famous Instagrammer, but he has quite a big following. And his content seemed quite refreshing. It was a focus on culture, on history, um, on valuing our origins. And so I was cautiously hopeful when I joined his Discord server. And I lasted 2.5 days. Because yeah, it was overrun by anti-Semites. And you can't do anything with those people. They are completely useless. They like they're cosplayers. That's what it is. They want to act tough. They never actually do anything. Um, they can't even. They're so set in their ways. Like there's no amount of dialogue that is ever going to make them think differently. And not even that. Like you can still, you can think whatever you want, but you can at least be practical about it. You can look at the bigger picture and just realize that there's no point in you know attacking everyone because these people they blame the Jews for everything, um, while kind of excusing what the Muslims are doing in our countries, and but then also having a lot of common ground with that extremism because they're also obviously they don't like the Jews, they don't like gay people, they barely like women, and any moderate joining these groups and wanting to again connect with people um, that are able to offer some answers on what to do, they see this kind of speech and like, okay, I'm out because I can't be associated with this. Like nothing will get accomplished. Um, like for me, the breaking point is like after I realized that the owner uh, of the server wasn't going to take a stand on that. My breaking point was also um, like in the morning I left, there were a bunch of them just brainstorming ideas for a flag of their so-called political movement, and they were taking inspiration on the Nazis and the Roman Empire. Is
Oh
like,
no.
yeah, this is not going to go anywhere, and so yeah, we once
Oh.
again we hope to be better, and we have to be better because
Absolutely.
projects like ours matter because we have to show normal people that there is still hope. And it's not too late to fight back. It's not too late to change the tide. We just have to do something, and this is it. This is the start. And it might not seem like a lot, and it won't be at first because we're also fully aware that we're probably not going to get a lot of views at the start, but it is a start. It is laying the grounds for hopefully something that's going to grow and it's going to attract more people to join in to participate with us, either in front of the camera or in the comment section that want or people that want to reach out by email and yeah, and show that there are a lot of us. In fact, we are the majority. Normal people, sensible people are still the majority out there. And yeah, we just, you know, little things like this can show that and can inspire people to either join us directly or join the cause and doing their own thing and starting their own channels and podcasts and local groups, so on and so on. And I will now allow others to speak.
Yeah, you were saying about the groups, the group trying to make their own flag and brainstorming about that. And the first thing that came to mind was, so it seems like it's all about aesthetics and the brand and not really the cause. And yeah, just
It's quite performative, um, because and, and again, there is a reason why the far right has never accomplished anything. Um, it's just a bunch of people shouting at the void, and that is, fine if you stick to your own groups. But when you overtake groups that can still attract moderate people that are trying to connect with others and trying to take action, um, then no, don't do that. You're just harming the cause. And the more of these false starts, eventually, a lot of people are just going to go, yeah, this is hopeless. There's no point to this because whatever group I join, it's overrun by anti-Semites or, and so yeah, and then those people, they just conform to the fact that it's too late, nothing can be done, and it is what it is. And so, yeah, it's important to show otherwise.
Yeah, I think being calm and rational and the opposite of those guys who just like to shout angrily into the void, as you said, and not try to practically do anything or discuss rationally. I mean, who is interested in hearing a pile of people just ranting on and on? I don't know. No, I don't think anyone's got any time for that.
Yes, and it's same at this side of world as well. Like I'm from India, the only bad luck of the right wing guys is they are quite emotional and they cannot balance their emotions. That's the first thing. They're
Yes.
short tempered. Instead of responding to the situation, use their own logic and help the cause. These guys vent it out like crazy because the person who needs to get educated or needs to get enlightenment on these issues, they give up the moment they see the amount of energy that is being used. And these guys just give up. They say, all right, that's fine, let's move on to something else. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
Here the left have taken over, and those guys are very patient, and they have soft agendas with them that they use to kind of brainwash the normal generation that we're talking about. So yeah, instead of responding to the problem, these guys choose to react, and that is a base mistake. That once in a while you'll get to learn about it, and eventually you're going to give up on it. There's the same problem happening here as well.
Yeah, because it is very draining. Like, especially like if you are already in a state of mind, and I'm talking if you're a moderate, a sensible grown up, you're already in a state of mind that you are feeling quite hopeless with everything that's going on. Um, because maybe you're feeling completely isolated because you don't have anyone to talk to because your friends, family, co-workers um, are all extremely left leaning. And so you're already coming from that state of mind. So then it's like, okay, I found this group. Seems to be, more people that think the way I do or feel the way I do. And then you start chatting with these people, you start seeing the messages in these forums, and it's all extremist nonsense and hating on the Jews, blaming everything on the Jews, and no one's practical at all. No one's out there actually trying to offer solutions, and and that becomes very draining. And maybe you do that once, and it's like, okay, maybe it was just this group. You try another one, same thing, another one. Eventually, you're just gonna give up. And uh, the only way to bring about change is by um, getting enough moderates involved. That's it. And the problem that the far right doesn't seem to understand, or doesn't want to, is that what they're doing is just harming the cause. Because they see moderation in, political terms as a weakness. And they don't realize that they're never going to convince enough people to fully join. Because then it's like there's no tolerance there whatsoever. Because if you don't fully agree to everything that's being said, then you're out. Then, like, if you're not,
Yeah.
racist enough, if you're not sexist enough, anti-Semite enough, then you're out. You're not one of them. And
Which is what extremist groups do. It's the mentality of any extremist group is you either believe in every single talking point I'm presenting here, or you're not one of us, goodbye. And the problem in societies is the us versus them mentality is what makes nothing get done, because instead of creating unity among people, regardless of people being more conservative, more liberal, that's always existed. It's always going to exist. There's always going to be people that have things that they agree on, things that they disagree on, but it's people coming together regardless of everywhere everything they believe in is agreed upon or not. It's finding that common ground and fighting for that cause. Doesn't mean believing in everything, or else we're just sheep agreeing and nodding, and we're not, doesn't make us different.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think in the UK politically, the landscape has shifted quite a lot in the last, say, year. So if you are conservative leaning, you can find it difficult to know exactly where your place is in terms of which parties to vote for. Do you vote for Conservatives who have a long track record in the UK? Do you vote for Reform? Do you think about voting for Restore, which is a new group, which is like a challenger party to Reform? I just feel everything is more like fragmented. People struggling to know really where their worldview fits, and there's a lot of fear out there about the conservative, broader conservative vote being split election, so that a left-wing party not be defeated.
Yeah, I think people and then there's another problem, which is in a lot of countries there's just this like binary political system, which ends up not it pulls things into two extremes. And there might be political parties that actually that want to fight for things that I might agree on, but then they present another talking point which is like completely outrageous, and they lose the vote of everyone that could be moderate and could be like, you know what, I'll give you a chance. Let's break the status quo a bit. Oh, but actually, you're kind of going all the way to the other side of the spectrum and presenting way too many talking points. And it can't be like that. It has to be one problem at a time, or people have to pick their battles.
I was going to say, where you've got that pretty polarized binary system. You have to think about, what are your priorities in terms of policies you'd like to, get over the line. What was I going to say? I was going to make another point. So I'll come back.
That's right. Yeah, I think the biggest issue is that most people they they're just not practical. 'Cause even if you're one of the ones that like to blame the Jews and Israel for everything, an easy way to try to, I know that probably, they're not gonna change their minds no matter what, but in a very practical um, analogy, it's like, let's say that England was to invade Spain, right? But instead of using English soldiers, they would hire Portuguese mercenaries, right, to handle the invasion. The Spanish would still need to fight the Portuguese. They couldn't just go, oh no, our real enemy is England, so it doesn't matter. No, they would have to fight back and first defeat the Portuguese army that's out there raping and killing their own before they could even worry about England. So that's the argument. That's the very practical argument for people blaming Israel and saying that they're the ones pushing the Muslims into the West. And never mind the fact that that sounds completely absurd for several reasons. But even if that was the case, like, okay, however, they are still here. They are still invading us. They are still raping and killing our own. So let's maybe fight back. Let's maybe defeat the invading army before we can worry about who sent them. And that's the practical mindset to have. And from everything I've seen in these groups that have been overrun by these people, and having tried to um, talk to a few of them, uh, yeah, they are never going to be able to be practical. Because the thing is, the biggest, like, I can see the attraction in blaming Israel because it excuses them from actually taking action. Because
Mhm.
if you blame everything into this
Unreachable.
powerful, yes, enemy, then it's like, okay, like, I wish I could do something, but it's just, there's nothing to be done. And that, gives them an excuse for inaction. It's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to fight this, seemingly godlike enemy that they've, created for themselves. So, yeah, they still have the benefit of seeming like they're the enlightenment. They know the truth. They know what's going on, and while also having the excuse of like, yeah, well, there's nothing to be done. Whereas being practical, even if you maintain all your anti-Semitic nonsense, but you actually try to be practical and put that in the back of your head, um, they're not going to do that because most of them, if not all of them, are extremely they're cowards, like, and they don't want to actually do anything. It's all talk. It's a bunch of keyboard warriors. Um,
Who
and
probably listen to Candace Owens and and
Yeah, I associate those cowardly keyboard warriors with like both extremes, like a lot of left wing, you know, people who get irate about you using the wrong pronoun and will,
Yeah,
have, a furious go at you online. Um, I think it's just idiots at both extremes, really.
yeah,
I was thinking earlier, the term moderate, which we've used a lot, I find it interesting that as the Overton window shifts, the connotations of the term moderate, the associations change as well. So, for example, thinking back to the 90s, I can't imagine that someone who was keen for, a European country to protect its culture, its heritage, and to be firmly, we are Italy or we are France or whatever. I can't imagine that back then they would have been tarred with the far right brush. They would have just been seen as normal or moderate.
exactly.
And it's so interesting, like the power of language, semantics, the terminology people use to just disregard
Yeah,
any valid points someone might have. Like you've got to be very aware of it. You've got to be like really in tune, because I think in the last 5+ years there have been instances of people out there wanting to control the language you use, the expressions you use. Like I found myself back in 2020 using the term problematic a few times, which is, a word of choice of the left. And then I would take a step back and think, okay, I didn't used to use that word, or I didn't used to refer to certain examples or, points of reference. Where did that come from? That's not genuine for me.
Mm-hmm.
and it's all because that's how it. I mean, it's the ministry of truth. It's like it's just small step at a time, and it does, you know, chip away at our perception of the world and what's right and wrong. And the thing is as well, like about like the far left, the far right, like they're very similar, like extremely similar, in the way they operate. Uh, because the same way you can't have a conversation with someone from the far right, you can't have a conversation with someone in the far left. You just can't. And they, they pretty much believe in the same things. They want to be the ones in control. Um,
Completely. Yeah.
but yeah, like the far right, for example, they don't like gay people, but then in the far left, we could say it's neck and neck when it comes to them not liking straight people. The far right, might not like um, non-whites, but then again, the far left is also not a fan of white people, and they both want to control what's said, how it's said, um, and it's and it gets to a point again, like if most people, if normal people, that's what it's either one or the other. It's like you know, what's the point of anything? Because you so yeah, hopefully more and more people, and also like the thing about wording, um, I think a lot of that has lost. Like, I think we also need to be aware because you know, wherever our political affiliation and beliefs, we do tend to be inside our own bubbles. And, um, and we tend to forget there's a whole world out there of, you know, very stupid people. And But where I'm getting from, I'd say, people that might not even be conservative, just normal people, um, is that being called racist, being called a fascist, being called this and that doesn't have the power that it used to have only a couple of years ago, or even you know a year ago. And so I think more and more people are realizing that wait a minute, this is meaningless. It's just a word that has been thrown around ad nauseum to try to get people to shut up. And I think it's losing its power.
Yeah, because basically what I was thinking while hearing Nicholas and Winter Olympian talking and the Hindu guy was like that for a very, very, very long time, people think that the World War III hasn't started or will start soon. But in reality, if we want to, this is coming from a kind of like poetic perspective, but it already began a long time ago. The difference is that we're not using any kind of weapon to fight each other, but we're all participating in it because we all been using words as the weapons for a long time, for years. At least, let's say, I'm gonna be gentle here and say, since the pandemic, we've been using words as weapons. But the difference is that a weapon, if you use it towards someone, it will send the person to the hospital wounded or will kill them. But a word, people would flinch and would try to dodge it because they were scared. Ooh, that weapon is gonna hurt. That weapon might kill. But now it's been quite a while, almost a decade of this, and people are like, wait a minute. These words aren't sending me to the hospital. They're not really wounding me. They're not really killing me. So why should I be afraid of them? You know? So that's like my perspective. Maybe it's wild. Maybe it's out there. It doesn't make sense. But
No,
it was just.
I get that. I was thinking, well, maybe you should be afraid if you live in the UK and the police arrest you for posting the wrong thing
Yes.
online. That's the exception, I think, which is, yeah,
Yeah, that's
But
also true.
I
yeah,
mean, even then, like they can't arrest everyone,
no,
and I think that's how you know dictatorships start is because people get increasingly more afraid, and and the first thing is always um, you destroy the community, and that's absolutely one of the reasons why in the UK they are trying very actively to get rid of pubs because historically that has always been the hub of the community, the place where people can come together, have a drink, talk, make friendships, and they are trying to make us more and more isolated so we don't fight back in any way, shape, or form. And like just a few decades ago, chances are you knew who your neighbors were. You had some sort of relationship with them. You didn't need to be best friends, but you were cordial. And now I think that's quite rare. Um, like, and it's all done by design, and that's why again, I think any movement that wants to, that's why like these groups fail is because they want to be like these political movements, but then they forget that you need more than a nice little flag you need an actual community, and that's not something that can be built overnight. You have to put effort into that, and it's like what we're trying to do here is form our own community and let people know that all are welcome, and that's literally the only way we can survive. Because if we don't form bonds of trust with one another, then that's it. We lost.
I think that's really important. I think we live in a very low trust society in the UK, at least, and it's feeling increasingly balkanized and fragmented. And you can question what people's motivations are very, very easily. But
Yeah.
if you've got a community who are, for the most part, cohesive, have a similar kind of goal or or principles, it counts for a lot, and it goes against the grain.
Exactly. And like the less depending we are on the government, the less power they're gonna have over us.
That's
And
that's absolutely true. Like when we talk about any political scenario across all the countries, either they are far right or far left. There's no in between. Like, let's say I'm a voter and I get only two options: whether to choose a far right party, which comes up with its own drawbacks, and
yeah,
I still have to vote that party because the far left is not doing pretty good. Or maybe some of us were like uh, who do not agree with the far right because they are frustrated of him, and they choose the far left. But at the end of the day, when these parties come to the power, that's their only goal. They don't care about the community, how strengthening the community and everything. So when we talk about the banning of the pub, right? If the community is stronger, I really don't think any political party or any movement would go for it, right? Because they have their own political benefits, and you guys are the voters. So strengthening the community is the only case, and accepting people as they are, rather than bashing them for their sexual identities or who they are for and what they think about anything. Because whenever I go to any far right party, they start to question everything and they put the blame on anyone. But we need to accept the problem as it is. Okay, today this is the problem, and we need to find a solution. Let's work on it. Instead, people
yes,
went out their anger and frustration. And if you look, say, 5 or 10 years down the line, if you see 5 or 10 years ago, there was actually a freedom of speech. If I say something and there was something like agree to disagree, I would just say, okay, I don't agree with this, but we still are friends. Nowadays, it's like online bashing and everything, which resulted into systematic isolation of individuals. If you see, a lot of people are dying alone. They tend to commit suicides rather than asking for help, and then they have to pay for the help as well, which was kind of free in the community. If I see, I'm from India, and if I see any area or any, wow, do you guys also hear the clapping sound now?
yes,
I did hear it, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what it is, but when I see any girl is getting attacked by, say, we see the videos, right? Girls in the UK or any old lady in the bus getting attacked by the illegals and stuff. I feel so bad because no one is standing up for them. So that's the power of community,
yeah,
and
I know.
people are scared to do it because they might get arrested, which is a basic thing. Like, if you see 5 or 10 years ago, it was like a decent. It was like what we call it, a chivalry, where a guy
yeah.
just helps out the elders. And nowadays, it doesn't happen anymore because people are very scared that the government is going to punish them rather than helping them or appreciating them for doing a good cause.
Yeah, and there's also like there's no sense because then you also have like when you watch those videos, there's always guys commenting basically,
Yes.
well, you
You
voted for
voted
this,
for us.
Right.
so
Yes.
which is like sure, okay, again, let's maybe try to be practical. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't help anyone. Um,
And there's no guarantee
that,
that the people voted, that the
yeah,
person in question in the video voted for it. It's a way to again not claim responsibility. Oh, this is not my problem because
yeah,
you decided this, but no, there's a lot of people that didn't vote for that. So saying, "Oh, you deserve it because you voted for it."
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we all need to have more accountability. We can't just blame everyone. We can't blame governments. We can't blame, whatever it is, Jews, this, that. Like we have to take accountability on because we have failed as a society. Like this
Yesterday,
is also our fault.
sorry to have interrupted you. Yesterday, I came across
Uh,
a video where a 16-year-old girl, somewhat she got caught in wrong hands or something. She was groomed and later she was rescued. I was expecting some amount of sympathy for her because she has endured it. Like she had to face the situation. When I went into the comment section, like people were blaming her social media, they were blaming her school, some of them were blaming her parents. So they don't want to take the guilt over. Like they don't want to accept that as a human of that society, maybe a citizen of that country or citizen of that town, he failed at it.
yeah,
That's what it is all about, and no one is doing that. You cannot sit on a potato and hold your phone and type anything, and that is not going to help. And yeah, as you said, you voted for it. Like I cannot control the person I voted. I don't have a leash around his neck, right? I cannot just go and shout at my prime minister. I'm going to get arrested. I mean, that's what it has come to. Like, there's no any solution. There's no any community build up, no strengthening, and no one accepts them. Like, it's all right. You had to face it. Come on, let me give you a hug, or let's prevent this from happening in the future with anyone else. No one
yeah,
has that sympathy left anymore.
I know it's like people have regressed and they're just so detached from the most fundamental thing, which is that, you can make choices and actions have consequences. And yes, these things happen and there are perpetrators and they should face consequences. The impression I get in the UK is a lot of people are just so sick and tired of the justice system being so soft on criminals
yeah.
and
I like
excusing
that's not
away
just in the
behaviour
UK.
for various reasons, which might be down to culture. And most people are like, no, we're sorry, we've had enough of this. We've been gaslit for so long.
Yeah, I think also the other problem is that people have lost the sense of community just in general as human beings. There's people are very individualistic, and when I mentioned this, sometimes some people that again are extremists, not moderates, will be like, "Oh, so you're into communism?" No. There's a difference between communism, a huge difference between communism and communalism, a very big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And in communalism, which I believe in a lot of the central values of it is, yes, you have your individuality, but you also realize that you are part of a community in your where you live, or especially where you live because it's what's closer to you, and that you can't solve the problems of the world, but you can contribute to solve the problems of the people around you, and where you in which then again by proxy will solve a lot of your problems as well. And caring about your neighbor matters, but people don't care about that anymore because it's all me. It's all about them. It's not about trying to fight for the well-being of their community and the place where they live. It's all about just going to focus on the bigger problems that are unreachable, because ultimately it's easier for me to be like, oh, I'm gonna take a side on the war of Israel and Palestine, and I'm gonna take a side, and I'm gonna just put the flag and go to a protest and do this and that. Oh, I take a stand. Oh, why? Oh, because children are suffering. Yeah. Well, what about I don't know, in your community? Do you know? Do you do anything about the children suffering that are being many of them increasingly more um, taken by grooming gangs? Do you care about that? Because that's something that you can actually change. You can actually not change directly, but you can contribute to changing. Your vote hasn't matter. Your voice hasn't matter. But something that's completely far away from you, you can't really do anything about it because it's not even in your environment. Because ultimately, it's not even about the community or caring about a grand cause. It's all about how it makes them look to the world. It looks better because people will care because it's a world cause. So it's better for me to care about a world cause than the cause about something that affects my neighborhood in my small town.
Completely. And it's performative virtue signaling. And I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really use social media anymore, but I saw
Same.
this ramp up and up probably since about, before the pandemic, actually, maybe since about like 2015, 16, more and more people posting about their stances on things, to indicate how virtuous and how, moral they are. And it's just, I find it so hollow. It says nothing about actually how you treat people face to face or day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I really wonder, let's take an example of the Palestine issue. Is it the only problem that is happening in the global world? Isn't there Boko Haram kidnapping children and killing millions in the Nigeria, or is it not that important because it gets into some African continent, and it is
Yes.
happening since like a longer time. Like Congo is facing the issue, that Somalia is facing the issue, or Yemen is facing the issue. Yeah,
Afghan women not able to go to
African
school.
women, right? So what happens is, see, I'm from India, and like I really don't want to have only two choices, whether I'm a pro-Palestinian or I'm a pro-Israeli. I can say I really want to participate in this debate. I have my own different stand. So if someone comes to me and starts bashing about why don't you support Palestine, I say, do you support the Boko Haram killing innocent Christians in Nigeria because they are being targeted over there? Then that person doesn't have any answer because he doesn't get that much of what do you say, attention on social media
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
going on. And then there are children being killed in Yemen. No one knows where Yemen is on the map, but they have that, the, what do you call it, from river to the sea or something.
Oh,
And
yes.
when I ask what river are you talking about, they have no idea. And which sea are you talking about? Is it Mediterranean? Is it Arabian? They don't have any idea about it. So the problem is they're selective about the outrage. They are not for pro-Israel, right? If at all you end up commenting about whether you're pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian, it doesn't make you. It just make you like a bot. You're being controlled by their own agendas, and they are in their agendas, right? In that case, Nigeria, like they're being killed. There are mass graves being dug up using excavators. Humans are not killing mass graves. I saw the pastor; he was praying inside the grave for the people who are being buried, and there's no any outrage. So are we all racist, right?
Yeah.
I seriously wonder, like, yeah, like we do not take any stand on these issues because we've got
No.
there are Syria, entire country has been massacred. Like the Druze population, it got massacred couple of months ago. No one is talking about them. The women, they are being raped. They are being tied to a tree, which is the old formulas. Like it has been happening 700 AD. It happened in India as well when the foreign powers came to attack India. The Muslim powers that we are talking about. It's still MO. They are doing it. It happened there back in the history. It is happening right now as we speak. But there's no any outreach because for them, these people don't exist. And
It's the
what?
hashtag is not trending, so
Yeah, and billions of dollars are being transferred into those trees in the deserts, and those guys are riding, you know, cars worth $1 million.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
I
destroy
mean,
something.
it's all surface level with these people, and they don't, and they don't really care about Palestine or this or that. It's just, you know, it makes them look good within their own bubble, and that's it. And it's all
and
surface level. You can't expect them. Like if you actually ask them questions about the history of the place, they don't know. They don't want to know. They don't care because that's
no,
not
if
the
you
point.
ask them, they're gonna answer you, wait a minute, are you against my cause? Are
Very
you
true.
against
Yes,
this?
absolutely.
You Zionist. You are
Yeah.
against this? You are a Zionist? Why are you asking me about the history of Palestine, you Zionist supporter of the wealthy eat the rich?
And these guys have, they have a label bank with them. So the moment they'll call you Nazi, they'll call
Yeah.
you fascist, they'll call you Zionist, then they'll call you like in our country there's a term called a Hindu extremist,
Oh my gosh.
right? But I haven't seen any Hindu killing anyone else, right? We just don't do that, right? So tags are there, but they're being put on wrong people instead of being put on the right people. Like no one knows about what fascism is, right? Or
Yeah.
misogynist. Now all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
trending words, you have to just put an hashtag and start writing that word. You'll see how their outreach is on social media.
And the thing is, again, it's like these words only have power if we allow them to.
Very true.
And like there's never been a right wing dictatorship. Every single dictatorship has been left. Like fascism is leftist. Like that's it. Like the Nazis were, that's the name. That's, the National Socialist Party. Like, like Hitler was a leftist, on top of being a vegetarian. And so the fact that the far right glorifies someone that they wouldn't get along with, like they wouldn't get along with a leftist socialist vegetarian. And this is their hero. This is
It's,
their
it's
god.
absolutely bizarre, isn't it?
Because like it's the brainwashing because over decades and decades they've been taught, oh, okay, no, they were right wing. Like, no, they weren't.
I
And
also thought that too, actually. I also thought that
If you see the Iranian Revolution, they call it
yeah,
Iranian Revolution and not Iranian
yeah,
dictatorship,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
The taking over of Iran, like when it was happening, the movement of the left movement of Iranians, it started around say 3 4 years
yeah,
back. So what you see blocking all the roads and everything in Europe for Palestine, the same was happening over there in the 60s. And then Khomeini
yeah,
came. The first thing he did, he killed all those so-called left
yeah,
liberals. He killed them on gunpoint, and no one talks about it.
No.
Everyone knows this. And the worst part is all these universities and schools, they have been haunted by these guys. So they're
yeah,
brainwashing the very innocent children, by spending 6 or 8 hours a day with them in the school. They're
yeah,
just pushing down that agenda.
yeah. But that's also where accountability comes into play because I don't have kids yet, but if I did, and I mean, first of all, the most likely scenario would be to homeschool them. But if they were at school, university, but let's say at school when they're still like at an age where they're still taking all this information. And I couldn't like witness, them being taught about Islam and how it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and and complain about government. Like, what am I doing at home? Because I can educate myself, I can inform myself, and then I can pass that on to my kids. Like, I can't just like this mentality of relying on the government for everything, including the education of your kids, is absolutely insane. And you have to take accountability. Like, you have to realize that what you've been doing is wrong. Like, you can't just complain about it while doing nothing at all. And like, and sure, like by the time they get into university, more often than not, it's already, too late. Like and it is really bad. And it didn't take, like, I did my undergrad in 2007 to 2010, I believe. And then I tried doing a second master's in 2017, 2018. I couldn't finish it because it was just, like, it was still like wokeness as a term still wasn't a thing, but it was that. Like, that's why, like, when the pandemic hit, and like, I wasn't surprised because, yeah, that's what I was already dealing at university in 2017, 2018. It's that mentality of they don't know anything. They're professional victims, and not just the students, like the teachers as well. Like, um, I had this teacher, like, I was doing a master's in playwriting at the University of Glasgow, and we had this German teacher. She was like a year or two older than me, and like right out the gate, it was a very weird vibe because I remember it was like the first or the second class she taught us, and I can't even remember the context, but like out of nowhere, she starts complaining about how boring World War II movies are. I'm like, okay, you're German, maybe, don't. Um, Especially like when you're in the UK, and most likely than not, like, the vast majority of your students have had grandfathers or that, fought in the war. But all right, and then we had the assignment for that semester for that class was, it made no sense, but like basically we had to um adapt a non-contemporary uh play into modern times. And that part was fine, made sense. What didn't make sense is like you also had to pick a theater anywhere in the world where to stage it and explain why. Like, who cares? Why are we doing this? It's not like we're gonna graduate and knock on that theater. It's like, hey, I wrote, like, you know, and I remember, um, like at that point, like I was very done with everything, and I was just, it's like, okay, if I'm being forced to do this nonsense, I'm gonna take the piss. And I remember the play I chose was Peter Pan. Only like in my version, Peter Pan was going to be a pedo, and Captain Hook was the police captain trying to arrest him. And in my assignment, I chose the Old Vic Theater, in London because for many, many years, the creative director, whatever the official um, job title was, of the theater was Kevin Spacey. So I was like, well, it's a play about a pedophile, so might as well. And I remember having a meeting with the teacher, the German teacher, and telling her this is what I'm gonna do. And she turns to me and she says, "Oh, if you're gonna write about sexual harassment," she's like, "I'm not, but okay." Um, he said, "If you're gonna write about it, you have to acknowledge your position of privilege as a white man." I'm
Oh,
like, okay. And again, this was 2017. This was like around Christmas, 2017. So it was before all the insanity of the woke mob really started. But he was already there, and like I remember just like, looking at him like, no, I don't. Like first of all, and like I was this close to. Oh no, because she made it even worse because she said that, which is like in this context, it even makes less sense because like if I'm talking about Kevin Spacey, like he didn't sexually harass any women. They were all white men. So where's my privilege there? And but she says this like, oh, you have to acknowledge your position of privilege, and and then she takes a quick pause and she looks me dead in the eye and said, "Oh, I mean, I'm assuming you were never sexually harassed." And I was this close to actually saying actually yes, but then at the time, like I still wanted to make a career over there, so I thought, yeah, that's gonna be too big of a lie to carry with me. But just the insanity of like, it's like the victim mentality and the victim privilege that became so common just 2 3 years after that. Like it was already there. It was already in the universities. Like the brainwashing was already there. We just we didn't pay enough attention, or we just was like, yeah, okay, they're just being weird. Um, and now it's like, oh no, this is a serious problem. Like this has very serious repercussions because youth are being fed this, and because they never had, you know, anyone at home teaching them the right way, teaching them to, have critical thinking. Um, that is also why we are in the position we are right now, and we have to take accountability and realize that we have failed as a society for the past few decades, and we do need to do better, and
Yeah.
need to try to reach out to people, try to educate them. Um, Otherwise, this is just going to keep going and going and going. Like we don't have an option not to do it because they are doing it. Our enemies are doing it. They've been doing it for years and years, if not decades. So we kind of have to catch up, and we can't just blame it on everyone else and do nothing.
Yeah, I,
And
I agree. It's like as a society, we've digested a very simplistic way of like framing people and history, which is either oppressor or victim.
yeah,
And there's no nuance, there's no acknowledgement of grey areas in between, of, multiple societies having engaged in slavery or whatever it might be, that things are really messy and they can't just be boiled down to a slogan or
yeah,
just something really simple so that, an 18-year-old can claim to fully understand it and wave a banner.
It's
And one thing about history is, whoever wins the war ends up
Yeah,
writing it, right?
yeah,
And I don't understand like why Nicholas would be blamed for being a white person, and you know I don't understand. You're just a student for her. You're supposed to write your play, and she was supposed to correct you on maybe your narration or anything, like in order to improve your skills. Rather, it's the same thing happening in India. We've got few universities where they do not teach the children. Like people are paying huge amounts to attend those universities. They do not teach over there. All they do is all this pro pally stuff, or
yeah,
they always have some or the other kind of agenda, and you know students end up either like being woke, or they end up being brainwashed. And I don't understand, and we call them victim cards. So all these people, they
yeah,
have cards in them, like either they'll use the religion as a card or your race as a card.
yeah,
And they're not doing it for the good, like they're just doing it for their own personal benefit. And
Yeah.
when we talk about the enemies of the society, they are very good when it comes to their community values. So if one person, if he gets arrested or if he lands in trouble, the entire community will come running to help them. They'll guard them from facing the consequences, and which is not the case here. So first they, you know, for the university, all these left minds, they put the woke agenda, and the children, end up being like
yeah.
dangling here.
Like especially like if you're already an impressionable person to begin with, and you're starting like you're joining uni, most likely you don't know anyone, and it's like I mean, even if you don't fully agree with it, it's like if everyone around you, that's what they believe in, and it's like, well, I can either go along with this and actually have friends for the next 3 years, or I can just be isolated the entire time. And because they don't see an alternative, because there's not enough people, sensible people, just speaking out like we're doing here, and just showing them, no, actually, there's plenty of us out there. You don't have to go along with this insanity. There are alternatives, and the thing is, like, and like, there are still a lot of people voting for socialist parties, and either from straight up stupidity, just some form of white guilt. But people need to understand that, like for example, I'm gonna share the screen. Um, like what's happening in what just happened in Spain. Um, can everyone see it? Is this working?
no. You have to.
Oh,
Um.
okay, okay, now it is.
Oh, I can see now.
Uh, but like this is gonna affect
Mhm.
everyone. It's like the leftist party in charge. Like
So
they're
it's
doing this.
official. Wait, I can't hear.
No,
Am I the only one who can't hear?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
okay.
I can.
So basically, just like this is also so people can get accustomed to our website and if they want to check it out for themselves. Um, but but yeah, basically, like the situation in Spain, like obviously it's a socialist party that wants to buy votes. That's what this is. They are very concerned about the rise of the what they call far right, which isn't even far right, it's just a right wing conservative party. And they're very concerned that in a few years they might, you know, steal, as they see it, power away from them, and so they're trying to buy votes, and there's still going to be enough um, um, white Spanish people that out of guilt is like, oh, we kind of deserve this for reasons because that's what we've been led to believe, and this is gonna affect everyone because these people, it's 500,000 now. It's gonna grow. It's not gonna stay at that number. These people, they haven't come to assimilate. They haven't come to be a part of the Spanish community. They have come to take over.
If
And
I share, sorry to have interrupted you, and this is a
no, no, no,
very
no.
interesting topic. Uh, we in India we were scared when this news came up, right? You're talking about illegal migrants. If they were asylum seekers with their backgrounds verified before entering Spain, it could have been a different case. These
Yeah,
guys are wanted criminals in their own third world countries. Can you imagine the difference? Like, Spain is a first world country. These guys are coming from third world countries, that to their governments, which are corrupt, which are not following, they don't have any kind of a constitution, human rights. And if they are termed as criminals in their own countries, imagine what havoc these guys are going to spread across Spain.
yeah,
And
and it's not just Spain because then it's like once they're in, they can just travel anywhere in Europe, within
yes,
the EU.
and it's the same case that has happened in India. So we have our borders closed with Bangladesh. It was an open border policy over there. So their governments, they messed up real bad. They killed the good people. The extremism in Islam took over. When that happens, usually the women get covered in black colored clothes. They their expression, the freedom of expressions, their rights, their educational rights, and everything, they go down the drain. That's the first thing. These guys got themselves into India, and we have a lot of rural population and very poor population in that region, but they are very self-sustained. They have their own farming methods. The community is pretty strong, and they're very innocent. So these guys, they lured the girls over there. They married them, those girls. They took the citizenship by marriage. They literally massacred villages over there, and they took over the farmlands, the fertile farmlands. And now entire demography has been changed because one political party of that region, they let these guys come there. So now you cannot just defeat them, because even if you
Yeah,
have, say, 1 million votes over there, even if 1 million people vote, you have 3 million immigrants who are going to vote for that party, and you will never ever win that election if you're part of a democracy. That is the worst part, being in any democracy. The same happened in UK. If at all
yeah,
anyone wants to be in the first world country, he needs to undergo all the tests. He has to prove his capability, and the first thing is he has to prove his loyalty towards that country, because that country is feeding you, that country is letting you grow over there. And this
yeah,
is the big thing that these guys are missing. And let me tell you, these 500,000 people, they're all from our best neighbor. Those are from Pakistan. These guys are going to multiply within next 10 years. They just outnumber
yeah,
everyone.
um, and I think that people, the ones still voting for the left, need to realize because I think a lot of them are under the delusion that, oh, this is only bad for the so-called far right. No, because these people, they don't differentiate. They don't care who you voted for. They don't care how not racist you call yourself. They do not care. Like to them, you're all the enemy. Like that's it. It's as simple as that. And I think a lot of people our hope is like, oh, if I vote for the left, if I welcome are invaders. If I, say nice things on social media, blah blah blah, they're gonna spare me. They're not gonna kill me. They're
They're
not
not
gonna
going to
rape
spare
me.
you. You're
It's
just
Yeah, no,
you're just a herd of sheep, or you're setting ducks for them,
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
and they love to eat you guys.
it's
That's
the oh, I'm sorry for interrupting.
no. I'm so sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
It's this people pleasing tendency that a lot of people, it's a big problem in our entire society, is this people pleasing thing of we need to please everyone, so we need to be afraid of what people think of us. And it's what led us to this thing where we're like this kind of like suicidal empathy,
yeah,
because people want to please others, and they think they get this kind of if I'm not that like you were saying, if I'm nice to them they will spare me. No, they won't, but they think so. They think they still have this idea of, if I'm nice, if I appease to them, they will spare me. And then there's another thing that I have noticed is another two things. First thing is that people really think that illegals, when I say illegals, I'm talking about mostly Islamists that come from these countries. They come illegally, for example, via boats, etc., to Europe or to America, whatever. Um, uh, People think that they are these uh, poor people that come from these developing countries. They're just looking for a new life, for a better life for them. They're so humble, they're so kind, they just want to be accepted and welcome, like all the Europeans when they went to Ellis Island back a bunch of years ago. It's the same thing. They just want to start a new life. We should be nice to them. That's all they want. But they are thinking about this with a Western mentality.
Exactly.
That's the
yeah,
one
Yeah.
thing.
Yes,
And yes, go ahead, go ahead.
you're absolutely right. Whenever, like, I'm from Asia, I've seen this. Like, the first attack of these people happened. Like, you accepted them. Like, let's say of these 500,000, but in India we were attacked 700 AD. That was the first time an Islamist attack happened on India. Till today, we are the surviving civilization. We are the only ancient civilization which is still surviving. The problem is, you think about these people as if they're one of your own.
yeah,
You think these people have grown up in the same conditions, the same family conditions, or same religious conditions that you are. Let's say there's a difference between the lessons. Let's say the kids who learn in a school which is in Palestine, a school in India, a school in Europe. So let's say in Palestine, Abdul wakes up, picks his gun, go to the Israeli border, and kills the Jews. In India, it is like John wakes up, he gives a kiss to his mom, she gives him his tiffin, he goes to the school, he have fun with his friends, he learns something new, he comes home, he goes off to sleep. And it must have been the same in the Europe, but that guy was coming from that extremist country. He's coming with a lot of trauma. He's being taught to kill people. That's the first instinct that he's going to do when he see any innocent person in that country. And I
Yes.
don't understand why would any white person give them that comfort. Why do you have to do that? Because I have a simple understanding of things. If at all my country is under attack, if I am being forced to leave my country, as a man, as a citizen of that country, it's my responsibility to pick up a weapon to fight the people who are ruining my country. That's it.
Yeah.
Everyone did.
yeah,
Uh, World War One, everyone did it. World War Two, everyone did it. We are protecting. As far as my country is concerned, we are constantly being attacked by terrorists and extremists and everything. We are not living in a country. You understand that? And
Yeah.
these immigrants, they are not asylum seekers. Their countries, they are not being ruined by anyone, right?
I think
They,
one reason that the West tries to explain this away is that we have guilt from past wars and from colonialism, and we kind of deserve everything that happens, and we shouldn't, be discriminate at all about who comes into the country.
Right.
I think it's really misguided, and these people haven't stopped to think about history and pattern recognition and people's motivations. I just think we've been very, very naive, or at least our governments over decades have been.
Naive is the word, because Spain never attacked Pakistan in order to accept 500,000 of their own. If it could have
Yeah.
been Britain, we could have understood it. And I think it's a pretty old issue now. 1947 was where India was liberated from Britain, and we are on our way. We are doing pretty good. Pakistan didn't do good, right? These guys are not. They are not failing as a country. It's their own business. Their people goes to other country and they just steal money and resources from them, which is very bad.
Yeah.
I hope Spanish people wake up. I hope the Spanish government understands this and they just keep Spain as it is. I've been to Madrid. I've had the city tour and everything. It was a pretty wonderful city back in 2017, but now I cannot dare to visit that city again.
I find it
And
interesting that
Mm.
an Indian chap like yourself might be able to display some outrage over what happened near the border with Bangladesh, but in Europe, if someone tries to express similar, they get shouted down as a racist, etc. And you just wonder, if you applied some of the same situations to other countries, would the same things be justified? I just feel that there is
No.
this unspoken hierarchy.
Yeah.
Who is allowed to be a victim, who is not.
Yeah.
So I was visiting Thailand. I was on a diving trip over there, and we had a lot of Europeans over there. We were staying at a hostel, and we were just having a couple of beers. And come on, we are a global citizen. We ought to have different opinions. Agree to disagree, or we can understand everyone's side of view. And I asked, we had people from Israel as well. When they looked at me, they were a little scared. They thought, I might be, what do you call it? The hate for Jews?
Anti-Semite.
Anti-Semitic, yeah. So I just told, we introduced each other and said, oh, you're from Israel. And those guys were scared a little because they were in Asia and stuff. And I said, wow, it's wonderful to meet you because you guys are from Israel. And they were like, why would you find it wonderful? Because the entire world doesn't find it wonderful. I said, I really don't have anything to say. We just, because our countries have a good relationship and you guys are good, because a lot of Israel tourists visit India. We have a lot of places which are especially for the Israeli people. And then I met a lot of Spanish people as well, diving instructors and everyone. And when I just I just tried to discuss these topics. I was like, you guys have a lot of immigration problem nowadays. Oh no, there's no any problem. We are pretty open to it. We're trying to say, like, guys, why are you justifying it? If I'm telling you have a problem, you do have a problem, because some of them are neighboring countries and they're just spreading havoc over there. They're like spreading all trash and everything over there, which is not good. And
But that's the thing. Like, sorry to interrupt, but what you said, like, their response is, "Oh, we don't have a problem. We're very open." They fail to. That's the problem, because they thought that what you meant is they have a problem because they're very intolerant and racist, and so their default reaction was to tell you, "Oh no, there's no problem. Everyone is welcome," and that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yes, I see you're in trouble, but you're not actually. I tried convincing them, but later I said, okay, let me have my beer in peace, because there are 3 steps of any, the takeover of countries. One is beg, second is borrow, and third is steal. I come to your house, I knock on your door, I beg for you to let me in because it's cold out there. I get into your doorway, and then I borrow a bedroom of yours, and then I steal entire house from you and I kick you out. That has been the modus operandi of the conquest, and it's everywhere. It has happened here as well. That's the reason. And when I learn about history of any country, I check all the sides. I try to be rational. I ask questions. People should ask questions even if they get cancelled. If anyone is getting offended because you asked a question, doesn't mean they are right. They can be wrong too.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why, like, and just to wrap up the first episode, because I want to try to introduce like a segment to every episode where let me share the screen again because share screen, like the importance of history. And on our website, we have a section called the Hall of Wisdom, and the goal is to try like every post, like they're short enough just to educate people, to not overwhelm them, and they're all in a language that can be there. It's accessible to everyone. And so I'm thinking like at the end of each episode, we can just pick one of the posts and kind of just discuss it a little bit. Um, and I think for this one, for this episode, we might as well start with this one because that's the thing. It's like the distortion of history and how people perceive, in this case, the Crusades as being a power grab by the Pope, by the Christian kings, when and they can then use that as like, oh, okay, we should feel guilty because we went in there and we tried to conquer the Middle East and blah blah blah. So it's like, we can't complain about what's being done to us now, and that's not how it went down. Um, like the Crusades were a reaction towards um, the Muslim invasion of the Middle East because at the time most of the Middle East was Christian and they invaded these places, um, killed anyone that either, like, if you didn't convert, you were either killed or you became a slave. And that's why the first Crusades were called because Christians were being killed, not just the citizens of these kingdoms, but also the pilgrims to the Holy Land. And people need to realize this. People need to realize that we're not the monsters that for decades and decades we've been led to believe. And like every set of people have done horrible things. There's no disputing that. But we can't, like, we have to be very factual, and we can't turn a good thing into a bad thing and vice versa. So the Crusades were not a power grab, were not a land grab. It was a reaction to the murder of, of Christians and the invasion of Christian kingdoms in the Middle East. That's it. And like the more people are aware of their own history and the history of the world, if you're not, European, the better equipped you're gonna be for the fight ahead. And so yeah, that's why like it is like education is fundamental to what we're trying to do here. Because like our enemies don't care about history. So we have to be better. We have to care about our legacy because no one else will. And it makes it easier for them. If we believe their lies, we're just making their jobs a lot easier. Because then it's like, okay, well, I guess we had it coming. And like, no, that's not how we went down. And, and we have to, and the thing is, and again, like, I think it is like, he was probably like, I'm not sure when it started, but it was definitely in the 20th century. Like this arrogance towards the past that we know better than the ones that came before, when it's not true at all. And in the past, every generation learned from the past. Now it's like it's a complete dismissal of everyone that came before. Doesn't matter if it's just the previous generation or generations like centuries ago. Like just this unbelievable and ridiculous arrogance of no, I know better. Like no, you don't. And we all have to learn from one another, and we have to learn from history, and like we have to preserve it. We have to preserve history. We have to preserve culture. We have to preserve um
There's a lot of
the
revisionism going on, and it makes people see things instead of in a nuanced way, in a very, again, you versus we versus us versus them, or mentality. And this reminds me, I have 2 YouTube channels, and one of them I made a video about a game called Assassin's Creed. And in the game, it starts it's a saga. It has a lot of several games, but in the first one, it's basically they name the enemies Templars, and they Knights Templars, and then it's basically they try to do this kind of very subtle but not really historical revisionism, where they start the game by saying that they consulted historians and people of all cultures and faiths to write the story of the game, and then the actual locations of the game are real historical locations of the past, and it is meant to look like what it looked like in the past and all of that. And then the Templars in the game are depicted as the enemies, as these people that want to basically, the ultimate goal of the Templars in that game is to have a new world order. At least that's what they kind of try to draw towards. And I made nothing of it initially, and then I actually ended up continued playing that game, and then eventually made a video about it, because it made me think how much historical revisionism there is in something as simple as a video game. And then in not only that, but in the actual story, there's just no nuance. And a good story, I think, it doesn't need to have one ultimate hero and one ultimate villain, it from the beginning to the end. It's good when a story has makes the person experiencing the story, either reading or watching, kind of be unsure for a moment which side to pick. But in this game, no, they frame it very obviously, so you do not feel inclined to align yourself with the other side. And anyway, in the video, it got a lot of views. It got at this point it's at 110,000 views, and I have a lot of comments. And I've seen a lot of comments that are like, there's a lot of intelligent comments of clearly moderate people that just want to have a discussion and talk about things. But then there's a lot of comments of, you are a Nazi, how can you say that about Templars? The Templars in the game and in history were abusing children and murdering and destroying cultures, especially the Arabic culture. Um, and then other people calling me Jew and putting the juice emojis, of course. Um, Nazi and radical and far right and all that. And it's the historical revisionism, because people hear the word Templar, and it's not just in a game, it's also through history. I guess people read about it and they are convinced that the Templars were money hungry people somehow connected to the Jews, and were just terrible, and we should hate them and be so ashamed that they even existed in Western culture and history.
Yeah,
Yes.
and and like because I do remember like in in one of those games that was set in Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, like they were depicting the Ottomans as these just innocent freedom fighters that were being oppressed by the Greeks, or as they like call, because basically for anyone that doesn't know, when we say like the fall of Rome, we are only talking because so before Rome, the Roman Empire fell, he had already gotten divided in two halves: the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire was ruled from Rome, and that's the one that fell when we say that when we talk about the fall of Rome. And then the Eastern Roman Empire was ruled from Constantinople. And that one didn't fall at the time. That one endured for centuries until it got invaded by the Muslims. And so yeah, in that game, like they depict the Ottomans as again like this, the rebels, the revolution fighting against the evil empire. And no, like, they took over, they invaded like what we know, you know, now we call them the Byzantine Empire or Greeks, but they did refer themselves as Romans, like, um, even centuries after the fall of Rome, they still saw themselves as Roman. But yeah, whatever you want to call them, Greeks, Roman, they they just took over. They destroyed their culture. Like the Hagia Sophia, for example, was a church, was a cathedral that got turned into a mosque because that's what they do. Like they don't build anything. They take over. And we can talk more about that in future episodes because um, I forgot to mention, but one of the goals we have here is to try to get um, ex-Muslims as guests to offer them uh, a voice and a platform. Um, um, Sorry, there's a bit of background noise.
Oh,
Um, yeah. And we'll see if the second episode for the episode. There's an Iranian woman. She's very vocal on social media, uh, and about her fight, her personal fight against Islam. And and again, like people need to realize that what they're doing now, they've been doing for centuries and centuries all across the world. Islam started in Arabia and just conquered its way through Africa, the Middle East. They, conquered most of the Iberian Peninsula. They tried to do that in France. Um, That's another post of from the Hall of Wisdom. We can go into more detail next time. And but yeah, like they trying to do that in India. They like this is their MO. It hasn't changed at all. So we cannot afford to not learn from history. It's as simple as that. And the more we know, the more we educate ourselves, the better equipped we're going to be to fight them. Because we can be inspired, we can duplicate what our ancestors did and do it again. Because if they did it, so can we. And it's as simple as that. And I think that the more we do this, um, the more we show people that there's nothing to be ashamed of. If you're European, if you're a Westerner, there's nothing to be ashamed of. In the same way, like if you're not, if you're in this case an Indian, like you can still look to the West and appreciate our culture, appreciate our history, the same way that we as Europeans um, can look at the history of India
Very
and
true.
appreciate it. The same way we can look at the history of Japan or China. Maybe not right now, but before the colonists took over, and like we can appreciate the history of these civilizations and realize that we're kind of like again, it's one of those words that have been kind of taken over by the left, but equality. We are equals because we all come from great civilizations, and like there's no. It's kind of to use another very basic analogy. It's like supporting different sports teams. Like you can believe your team is the best one. If you're like I don't know, if you're uh, a, a Liverpool FC fan. You can say like, no, that's and I can look at the history and say because of this, and that, that's um, the the greatest. Uh, but then you can also respect the fact that you can have someone from Italy saying that AC Milan is the greatest team because the history
Absolutely.
said
At
this and
the end
this,
of
and
the
then
day, yeah, at
yeah,
the
you
end
can
of the
agree
day,
to disagree and
yeah,
move on, and that's it. And it's the same thing with like it's perfectly normal
it is.
for
I mean,
me as an Europe.
yeah, I love my team. I want to support my team, but I definitely want to play against you as well. At the end of the day, we are
Yeah,
going to celebrate it as a sport. We are going to sing our songs, but at the
yeah,
once the game is over, we are going to be friends, and you're going to go back to your
exactly.
home.
And like you can still believe that your um your team is better while still being able to admit that like yeah, okay, like the other team also like the history and this and that. Like I can see where they come from, and it's the same thing with our legacy, our background. Like myself as a European, it's perfectly normal for me to believe, to be proud of my roots, to be proud of my ancestors, to think that I do think the Western culture is the best one. Like, but it's also perfectly normal for an Indian person to believe the same way regarding Indian culture, or a Japanese person to feel the same way regarding Japanese culture.
And
And we can all be proud of our
yes,
ancestors and
and,
where we
and
come from,
imagine
and just
Yeah, and imagine a world full of like, imagine a world like, say, now what is happening, a single culture is trying to take over the entire world. Imagine how boring that world would be. Like if I say I
Yeah,
want to see the Japanese culture, if I go to Japan, I really want to see Japanese people and Japanese culture over there, right?
yeah,
I don't want
yeah, exactly.
any woke person trying to teach something new or something like that. I really don't want that. The world has to be full of diversity. That's the beautiful thing about it. We like, I'm proud of my culture, that's fine. You're proud of culture, that is fine. Let us both proud and respectful about each other's culture, because that is something which cannot change. The history we cannot change. That is something that has happened, right? We cannot just blame each and everyone for that. No, shaming and all that. Okay, your ancestors did this and that. That is over now. Present is the only thing that we have right now. Let's
Yeah,
enjoy it. As far as these conquests are concerned, if you talk about Persia, if you talk about Lebanon, these are all pretty liberal countries. They respected everyone, they loved everyone. Overnight, they had to leave their countries. We've had the Persian migrations, like we had the Persian people come to India on a boat. Our king.
yeah.
So the story, I'll take you a minute of your time. So the Persians came to India on a boat. Their boat, it kept on wandering around Indian coast, and in those times, India was a collection of multiple different kingdoms. So it got onto the western coast of India, and the king, he allowed them to dock their ship because they had women and kids with them, and they couldn't understand each other's language. So the king asked them, "Your language is different, your entire culture is different, the god you worship is also different." They were Zoroastrians. They pray to the fire god. How
Hmm.
are how are you going to stay with us? So the elder person in that on that Persian ship, he got a bowl full of milk, and he pointed at the milk that this milk is you, it's your kingdom. And he got a handful of sugar. He mixed it in the milk, and he told them that we are like the sugar, you're like the milk. We'll add the sweetness in your life, and they proved themselves really well. Like we had a lot of wars, and we had a lot of big generals in the army who were Persians. We had the biggest, empires, automobile empires, and all the industrial revolution we had is because of them. So
Yeah.
migration is good as well, but you know, if they're going to live with you, if they're going to stay loyal to your country, if they're going to appreciate your culture, that's the one thing. But if they're going to kick you out of your own country, your own home, then it has to stop.
That's the
And
thing, and just as a final thought, I think because we talked about how certain words that the left use have lost their power, and they
yes,
never really had any power except the ones we give it to them. But it's also like we should also try to kind of take back a lot of the words that um, they've been stealing from any sensible person. Like again, equality, which because of the left has become such a bad word. But
yes,
this is what equality is. Is the fact that me as a white European can be here and talk with you, an Indian, and we can have a civilized conversation. We can find common ground because at the end of the day, we share the same kind of principles and values,
true.
and we can agree to disagree. Like I'm gonna, and no matter what, I'm always gonna come out believing, nah, I do prefer European history, and you're gonna be saying the same thing about Indian history,
Yes,
but we can find enough commonality to say, yeah, but like you're right, like that piece of European history is quite good, and I can say the same thing about Indian history, and we can, just move on from that, and that's equality. Is realizing that I'm not better than you, or me as like white European, we're not better than Indians, um, and vice versa, and that's equality that makes sense. And it's the same thing with diversity. What you said, like we always had plenty of diversity on this planet.
Yes,
Like not
absolutely.
every country needs to be diverse, neither it should be. Like the vast majority of any country should always be formed by the natives. Like I don't want to see. I don't like. I never went to India. But like if I go to India, I don't want to see a bunch of white people. I can do that at home. I don't
Absolutely,
need
you're
to fly
absolutely
all
right.
the way there.
Yes,
Like
you're to
if
the
I go to
point.
Japan, I
Yeah.
want to see Japanese people in their environment with their traditions and
That's the
culture.
beauty of
Yeah.
traveling. It's experiencing different cultures, different energies, different atmosphere, or else it's
And,
just everything is the same. And
and
why would I
like
travel?
we're not saying that like oh everyone like close borders, no one can. No, like but every country needs to be very selective, and it can't be a free for all.
No, it
And
still have
I,
its own identity. Otherwise,
yeah,
it ceases being what it is. Like, for example, what would Estonia be without the Estonian people, connections,
yeah,
heritage
uh,
there, etc. And you could see
exactly. And like,
like,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I don't want to kind of go to a country in South America and be like, right, you're now an outpost of whatever I am. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, should not happen.
and like,
Past, but personally, I'm very anti-empire and anti-colonialism. But what is interesting is that throughout history there have been empires, and they probably served a big purpose. Various they had their reasons, acquiring territory, resources, etc. And maybe we're now at the point in history where we've seen what what the consequences of certain empires were, and we're saying no, no, thank you. We're not doing that again. Our focus has shifted. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
and like there needs to be just it's just common sense, really. Like if I were to go live in Japan, first of all, I wouldn't try to force my culture on them. I'm like, I'm here because I really like Japanese culture. So I'm going to try to assimilate and I'm going to try to respect them. And um, be. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, I can hear
yep,
you.
yep.
Okay, because my earbuds, the power. So okay, but yeah, and like and also like I can't expect to then I'm living in Japan for 6 months. I'm Japanese now. No, I'm never
Right.
gonna be Japanese.
Very
It doesn't
true.
matter if my passport says I'm Japanese. That's not how it works. Like I can try to act Japanese. I can adhere to all the cultural norms. I can speak the language fluently, but I won't see myself as an equal to Japanese natives. Like that's just common sense because I'm not one of them. I can respect them, I can assimilate and all that, and I can even have a passport that says I'm Japanese. Doesn't matter. I shouldn't expect, and it's what's happening now. It's not even expecting equal treatment, is expecting privileged treatment over the native population. And that kind of insanity has to stop. And it's okay to be against that. It doesn't mean that you're a racist. It doesn't mean that you're an extremist. It just means that you have common sense. and we all have to, once and for all, just stop being afraid of being called a racist or being called this and that. Because, look, sure, if you're a racist, you're a racist, but like that's not the case for, the people here, and that's not the case for, the vast majority of what we now call the moderates out there. And we want to, we want common sense to rule again. And we have nothing against equality. We have nothing against diversity. Quite the contrary. We just, it has to make sense.
Very true. And now, if you see what the Japanese government is doing, they are on the forefront of saving their culture, and we everyone wants it. Like entire world is focused on Japan right now because you know how beautiful the country is, how amazing the people are, the human values they promote and everything. Now they literally have cancelled the, as you said, everyone wants privilege now in their countries over the native
Yeah.
people. So they've started canceling the rights of those people who just came over there. They've stopped the mass gatherings of those people. They've stopped the mass prayers and everything of those people. It is very
Yeah.
important for their own survival rather than getting bashed by the world. And as far as EU is concerned, the European Union, if you see, Poland gets bashed for not accepting a single immigrant.
Yeah. And like, I think that more and more,
But Poland is doing good as far as the social order is concerned. They don't have that much of crime rate. Like that's what we see from this side of the world. They're doing pretty good. Their streets are safe. They don't have any crazy riots going on over there. They don't have any social security issues over there. The women feel safe over there. So yeah, that country is putting their own citizens first rather than accepting anyone who's coming from any part of the world. And that's, I mean, they're getting bashed by the entire European Union for it. And I don't understand. Even for an example, Britain had a Brexit. They got themselves out of the European Union. Still, they are following the norms that EU has pushed. These people come from anywhere, and that's what I see from this end. I might be wrong, but I see five-star hotels. The immigrants are staying in five-star hotels. They're getting paid 500 euros a week. They have the NHS facilities inside those hotels, and it is full of food and everything, while the taxpayer is on the street trying to make ends meet. I mean, that's very wrong, right? I
I know.
mean,
Don't even get me started on that. And I think you could say countries like Poland and Japan have guts, but I honestly feel like they just don't care. Like Japan's always been quite a unique country, kind of in its own sphere. And then the Eastern European countries were formerly communist, so they've lived under socialism, all the ill effects of that. And I think since they got their freedom around 1990, they've been reveling in that freedom and democracy and finding themselves again who they are, who they want to be. And that's so precious to them. At least that's the impression I get.
and yeah, and for an example, and like how socialism is affecting us. So if you must have seen the New York mayor post election, Zohran Mamdani,
Mm.
he came up with all the ideas that free bus to everyone, free housing to everyone, rents would be less, rents would be low. But if at all you understand basic economics of any city, in order for the city to run, it needs to collect taxes, right? He came up with all those ideas, and now the news is right in front of me. He's planning to increase the taxes because the federal government is not going to pay for New York. And that's the same modus operandi has been used in India by some of the leftist party. They said free education to everyone, free this, free that. Someone has to pay for it.
It's
You
absolutely
can't.
insane. I can't believe that New York City, which was always like stereotypically one of the most capitalist cities in the world, has ended up in this position. But then I think I can believe it because people did vote for it, and it was overwhelmingly young leftist women who, I say as a woman, are most likely to fall for that.
Yeah, because what happened is the division of votes. Let's say if there are 1,000 votes in New York City, uh, 600 votes were pro Mamdani, and these were the immigrants. They were kind of in their favor. They were following the same religion, or their wants were the same as what Mamdani wanted. And some of them people, they were like the confused ones. They wouldn't want to go either far right or far left. They are like, okay, I'm not going to vote for this. And then there were people who were supporting the true American spirit, or true New Yorker spirit. That's how the the number game works. And there were a lot of people pouring money inside in his campaign and stuff that we know nothing about, and then the gimmicks that he played. So like, what I have understood is when Adolf Hitler took the control of Germany. Before that, Germany was facing a lot of crisis. So he became a hope for them to put food on the table, and then he took it over like anything. So I don't have any issues with what Mamdani did, but the way he has taken over is wrong. And now I can put up I can make a prediction that he's going to increase the taxes. He's going to blame it on the federal government, that they're not supporting us, or they're like bullying us into implementing our plans and stuff. But it really doesn't work, because the same example has been implemented in India. Like, we had the elections of the national capital here, the Delhi. The guy who ruled the capital for 5 years, he also came up with these plans, like free bus services to all the women. And we're talking about like millions of people over here. It put a burden on the economy, and the central government. I mean, the equivalent of federal government. It stopped paying it, because that state is like losing money for nothing. They're not making any money. And later that guy, put all the blame on the central government, spreading more propaganda. And later we found out that some of that money was going to the leftist campaigns and stuff. They were trying to, what is going on in your all of your cities, like the blockage of the roads and everything, that was being done in India, or like just to tarnish our image on in the global world, so that we wouldn't progress with the speed that we need. So that's how this entire ecology works. And yes, we have to look into the history, because it is written how the conquest happens, how the women are being targeted. It's the same that has happened over there. There are a lot of Sikh population in UK, who are like preventing these grooming gangs. The UK government might not take it seriously. I see there was a vote which they rejected the proposal to investigate the grooming gangs, and they even, people are barred from calling it grooming gang, or I can speak it like Pakistani grooming gangs. People are scared to even mention this, but it is happening, right? And no one is taking any accountability for it. But there are people who are fighting it upfront, like they're ready to go to jail and everything, because they're fighting for a good cause. I mean, we must take that into consideration as well. It is extreme stuff, but yes, I mean, we must acknowledge it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the people who are fighting things like that are people who are lucky to have what I call fuck you money, in that, say, they're already independently wealthy, they have a mortgage paid off, they have enough money for bills, for the rest of their life. They don't have to worry about the impact of whatever they're campaigning about on, say, their job, etc. I think there's a lot of fear in the UK about speaking out. It's very, very sad.
It is, and we have a tendency over here. Like, if you give me like £500 a week for doing nothing, I'm not going to accept that money, because I don't feel that I'm honoring the aid or the assistance. I'm going to earn my own money. That's my self-respect. if I if I have my family, I'm going to feed by myself. That's our self-respect. That's a community thing over here. If someone is not doing a job or something, he cannot eat for free. That is, these values have been installed in us. But when I see these guys, they just come from anywhere. I've been to most of the cities in Europe, and I've had an encounter with a guy who was dead drunk. He was from Syria. He was living on the benefits and I was in Switzerland.
Mm.
And that guy did something which literally, he groped a woman right in front of me, and he was walking parallel to me, right? And I was just clicking photos of the city because I love photography and stuff. That guy snatched my camera, and he wasn't ready to give me my camera because he was dead drunk. He started harassing women, and it's Switzerland we're talking about. The very nice human beings, I can say. And those people were hurt. They were not angry or something, they were hurt. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Why isn't he doing this? And it was the initial times when they started accepting immigrants from Syria. And I was so ashamed of that situation that I couldn't do anything. I literally stopped that guy, and I did everything in my control, because I was also on a visa. I
Mm.
couldn't get in trouble and stuff, but I really did it, and I apologized to that woman for like 10 times. I had to say I'm not with him, but that's the level of degradation that is happening.
I think that people, just final thought. I think that's why, again, what we're doing here, and hopefully this is also going to inspire more people to, again, either join in with us or do their own thing. Why projects like this are so important, because under normal circumstances, people around the West would see that kind of behavior and be like, nah, we don't want this. But they've led to believe that if you say those things, if you dislike what's happening, then you're far right. And so it's like, oh, okay, then I'm not going to do that because God's forbid that's what I'm labeled as. And the importance of projects like ours is that no, like you're not far right, you just have common sense. And the more people, normal people like us, speak up about these things, the easier it's going to get for normal people to finally wake up and realize that like none of this is normal, none of this is okay. We do need to take action. We do need to learn from history, and not even like ancient history. We just have to look to Iran, to prior to 1979, and everything that like how just beautiful the country was and how amazing the society there was, and how completely destroyed it got just in the as soon as they took over in 79. And now finally they're trying to take the power back, the people of Iran. And so we need to learn from that. We need to just be aware that we're just sensible people with common sense, and we can all get along no matter how race or creed, and that doesn't make us far right. And yeah, and hopefully moving forward we're going to continue to grow, we're going to reach more and more people, we're going to get more people involved as either active participants or as guests. And yeah, and I think that's it for today. I think we covered a lot. It was always going to be a bit awkward at first, but I think we did okay. And like I'm looking forward to the next episodes. And I do like being able to connect with you guys and other people that have been a part of our Telegram group and so on, like it does give me hope for the future. It does give me hope that we can still turn the tide, we can still fight back, and we can still show people that there is another way, and you don't have to choose between either the far left or the far right. You can just be a sensible person with common sense, and there's enough of us like that to make a change. And so, yeah, I want to welcome you all for joining me on this first episode, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you guys again.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you all. I think it's been a really good first episode.
Yeah, I think it was really great. I have seen first episodes of many things, and this one went really fluid, more than I think Nicholas expected, right?
Definitely.
It was wonderful talking to you guys, and hearing your view from the other side of the world as well. It was interesting. Thank you for this discussion, Nicholas.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You're a few hours ahead of us in India. It must be very late for you now.
Yes, it is. It's 4 in the morning now.
Oh wow,
Jeez.
that's dedication.
But it's the best time to have discussions.
All right, everyone. So thank you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.
Are we now living in Orwellian times? Have we brought them upon us? The hateful marches filling up the streets. Self-righteousness, it really stinks. What makes you think you know? Do you think your TikTok is holding all the knowledge? The secrets of the world?